In the summer of 1946, one of the finest builders in the American Southwest took a job in the Nevada desert, and within a month he had started quietly wondering whether he was going to survive it. His employer settled the bill every week in cash, with a loaded pistol on the table between them. The building was the Flamingo, budgeted at $1 million, finished at $6 million, and the reason the costs ran that far out of control has almost nothing to do with the story you have heard, and everything to do with a decision about how the building would be designed. A decision no construction project on Earth is supposed to survive. Using advanced AI, this is what the building accounts, the material restrictions, and the reporting from the weeks the walls went up actually show. This is how they built it. In 1945, an architect named George Vernon Russell drew something that had no business existing in the Nevada desert: a sealed, air-conditioned casino at the dead center, a Parisian showroom, a nightclub, an athletic club with steam rooms, a pool, a French restaurant staffed by European chefs. Russell had designed Cairo's on the Sunset Strip and worked here alongside Hollywood decorator Tom Douglas. Every gambling hall in Nevada was a sawdust joint with a swamp cooler and the door propped open. Russell's program described a Miami Beach hotel dropped whole into the Mojave. The man who commissioned those drawings was not a developer. He was a compulsive gambler who had just received the only piece of advice that ever stuck. If you're going to gamble, stop making the bets. Start taking them. Own the house. Billy Wilkerson published The Hollywood Reporter, owned the nightclubs where the movie stars drank, and had nearly lost his own company to his habit. He bought 33 acres on Highway 91, southeast of downtown, for $84,000. The one decision he got right was not hiring a local. He had the land, he had the drawings, and by late 1945 he was broke, because the man betting everything on owning the house was still, in private, losing at the tables. So he went looking for financing, in the worst year in American history to build anything. Here's what almost every telling skips. Even with unlimited money, 1946 was the wrong year to raise a luxury hotel anywhere in America. The war had just ended. Millions of servicemen were coming home to a country with nowhere to put them, and every scrap of lumber, copper, pipe, and cement in the nation was already committed. In March 1946, the Civilian Production Administration issued a freeze order banning new construction without federal approval, written specifically to protect materials for veteran housing. A casino in the desert was, by any honest reading of that order, precisely the sort of project it existed to kill. The Flamingo should have died right there in the paperwork. Instead, someone argued the site had broken ground before the freeze came down, and the exemption held. The graders kept running. But an exemption on paper does nothing to conjure steel out of the ground. Every legitimate supplier in the country was rationed, back-ordered, or filling government orders first. So from this point on, the only way to finish this hotel was to buy materials that were not supposed to exist. And there was exactly one kind of man in America who knew how to do that. In February 1946, a man named G. Harry Rothberg handed Wilkerson a check for $1 million, and in exchange a group of silent partners quietly took 2/3 of his project. Wilkerson took the money. He did not fully understand whose money it was. The partners were Moe Sedway, Gus Greenbaum, and a third man he wouldn't meet until March. All three already had their hands around the El Cortez downtown. The third man drove out to the site, walked across the dirt in a good suit, took Wilkerson's hand, and told him he was his new partner, Benjamin Siegel. The papers called him Bugsy, though nobody who wanted to keep their teeth said it in front of him. And let me be blunt here, because this is where the myth eats the truth. Siegel did not dream up the Flamingo. He bought into another man's project, with another man's drawings already sitting on the table, and then squeezed the dreamer out of it. By July 1946, he had incorporated Nevada Projects Corporation, made himself president, and installed himself as boss on site. But give him this much: he is the reason it got finished. A legitimate developer in 1946 could not source pipe for love or money. A man who had spent 20 years running liquor across state lines absolutely could. The trouble was that Siegel had opinions about architecture, and the first thing he did with them was fire the architect. Siegel looked at George Vernon Russell's plans, decided he was unimpressed, and threw him off the job. In his place, he brought in a local Las Vegas architect, Richard Stadelman, to redesign the casino, the restaurant, and the shops. Now think about what that does to a building already halfway out of the ground. The foundations were poured to Russell's grid, service runs, load points, and room dimensions were all fixed by a scheme that had just been binned. Every new idea had to be grafted onto a skeleton designed for a different hotel. And it got worse, because Siegel would not wait for drawings. His contractor was Del Webb, a former carpenter out of Phoenix who had built his company up from a cement mixer and 10 wheelbarrows into a fortune. One of the finest builders in the Southwest. And his men, on the biggest job in Nevada, had no design to work from. They took verbal directions from Siegel each morning, built whatever he had described out loud, and the drawings were produced afterward to match whatever was already standing. The most expensive building in the state was being reverse-engineered from a gangster's spoken sentences. Robert Johnson, the web man assigned to the project, remembered the job as elegant and badly conceived, both at once, which is exactly what you get when a hotel is designed by someone who has never held a set of plans. And a building without drawings has one guaranteed property. It gets built twice.
This is the part I came here for. Here is what those spoken orders did to the structure.
Siegel had the boiler room torn out and rebuilt. Then the kitchen. Those are the worst two rooms in any building to move because they are where the plumbing, the gas, the drainage, and the ventilation all converge. Relocating them means reopening floors and walls that were already closed. Then came the order that broke the plumbing budget. Siegel demanded that every guest bathroom get its own individual sewer line, running separately out of the building. Nobody builds a hotel this way. Rooms stack, and their waste stacks with them, sharing a common riser. And that is the entire reason hotel plumbing is affordable. Siegel wanted 93 bathrooms plumbed as though each were a detached house, and Webb's men had to lay every line. He wanted ceilings raised. He wanted crews on site around the clock, so he flew carpenters in from out of state at $50 a day, a small fortune in 1946. And every change rippled. Move the kitchen, and the ductwork moves with it. Add 93 sewer runs, and the concrete you poured last month comes back up. Webb watched the money hemorrhaging, watched the men loitering, and eventually did something brave. He told Siegel, to his face, that he feared for his own safety. Siegel calmly informed him he had personally killed at least a dozen men. Then he offered his reassurance. "We only kill each other." Webb kept working. He later described how Siegel settled up every week, in cash, with a loaded pistol on the table between them. That is the pay packet I mentioned at the top. And out at the delivery gate, something was happening to that cash that Siegel would not notice for weeks. Because the materials were coming off the black market, they arrived the way black market goods always arrive, at night, off the back of a truck, from men whose names never got written down. Siegel was buying wood, pipe, and fixtures at wildly inflated prices, and the profiteers he was buying from worked out something beautiful. They would deliver a load of supplies to the site, come back after dark, take it away again, and sell him the exact same load the following morning. He paid for the same lumber twice, possibly more than twice. This is the detail that reframes the whole story for me. Everyone remembers Siegel as the thief who skimmed the mob's money. Very few remember that he was simultaneously the mark. His changes and overruns alone came to more than $1 million, and part of that was rolling back out the gate at night, in a truck he had already paid for. And he still hadn't built the strangest room on the property. The Flamingo hotel block was designed as 3 stories. Siegel added a 4th level for himself, and he supervised that construction personally, which tells you what mattered to him most on the entire job. The walls of his private suite were poured 4 inches thick in solid concrete, and that concrete was reinforced with steel pulled out of military shipyards. It was there for one purpose: to stop machine gun fire. Beneath the residence, he had tunnels dug as escape routes. For the night, he needed to leave in a hurry. And structurally, that is a nightmare. He is putting a mass of shielded concrete on the top floor of a building whose foundations were poured for a lighter scheme, in a year when reinforcing steel is federally rationed, and he is sourcing that steel from decommissioned warships. His paranoia isn't a personality quirk in this story. It's a load on the frame and a line item in the budget. And the budget was gone. A project pitched at $1 million had reached $6 million. Wilkerson had drawn $600,000 from Bank of America to begin with. He and Siegel prized another $2.3 million out of Valley National in Phoenix. Siegel sold $500,000 in Nevada project stock. And when the banks stopped taking his calls, he started borrowing from Frank Costello and Meyer Lansky. Every dollar was a promise to men who don't send letters when you miss a payment. He had one shot to earn it back. So he made a decision that seemed brilliant at the time. He opened a building that wasn't finished. Siegel unveiled the Flamingo on the 26th of December, 1946, with 105 rooms and a desperate hope that the crowds would throw off enough cash to pay for the rest of his own construction site. Guests drove up past spotlights raking the sky, past imported date palms and Spanish cork trees, past shrubs floodlit in blue and red. Inside, green leather walls, black ceilings, tomato-red furniture, staff in black tie, slot machines beside a bar full of mirrors. Cooled air in a desert in December. Nothing in Nevada came close. Jimmy Durante walked through it, looked around, and told Siegel the place resembled a graveyard with dice tables in it. And here I want to correct the film because the movie shows an empty room. It wasn't. Crowds turned out across all 3 opening nights. A storm grounded half his Hollywood guest list, and every telling since has blamed the weather. The weather was not the problem. The building was. The rooms upstairs were still unfinished, so the winners had nowhere to sleep. They took Siegel's money, walked out the front door, and checked into El Rancho and the Last Frontier down the road, where they lost their winnings at somebody else's tables. A casino only wins if the gambler stays. Siegel had built a machine for taking people's money and left out the part that kept them inside it. It cost him $300,000 in the first week. By late January, he was running newspaper ads announcing the Flamingo would close on February the 6th. He had roughly 10 weeks to finish the thing properly. He shut the doors and finished the structure. And he did it beautifully, for men who had already voted to kill him. Stadelman and Tom Douglas, the last man standing from Wilkerson's original team, completed the guest rooms. Green carpet, a lucite chandelier in the lobby, handmade beds, Venetian glass ashtrays. A color scheme matched room by room. Douglas costed a single bedroom at around $3,500 to furnish. And Siegel advertised those individual sewer lines, the ones that had broken his own budget, the ones he had bullied Del Webb into laying. He was still selling the mistake as a feature. The hotel reopened on the 1st of March, 1947, and this time the winners had somewhere to sleep. Columnists wrote that it looked like a movie set, and one said the blueprint seemed to have come out of a chorus girl's dream of heaven. By May, Siegel was posting a profit of $300,000. Against a federal freeze order, a black market, a fired architect, and a building with no plans, he had done it. He was already dead. He just hadn't been told. The vote had been taken months earlier, at a meeting in Havana. On the 20th of June, 1947, Siegel was shot dead in Beverly Hills. The case has never been solved. Within minutes of the news reaching Las Vegas, Sedway, Greenbaum, and Morris Rosen walked into the Flamingo and announced they were running it. Not the next morning. Minutes. The men who inherited that building knew exactly when it would come free. Under Greenbaum, it cleared $4 million in a single year, which tells you what Siegel had really built. A proof of concept. It showed the syndicate that a casino could look legitimate, run legitimate, and out-earn every racket they had ever touched. And they spent the next 2 decades pouring the rest of the Strip on top of that lesson. One detail worth correcting before we go. The Flamingo was not named after Virginia Hill. Wilkerson chose the name in 1945, before Siegel ever set foot on the site. Siegel took that too, along with everything else. In 1993, the 4-inch walls came down. The shipyard steel, the tunnels, all of it. Nothing Siegel built is still standing. Yet the Flamingo is still open, still taking bets. The oldest resort on the Strip, built on a dead man's blueprint, by a builder who was never quite sure he'd survive the job.
Hit subscribe for more stories of how the places we recognize today were actually built, and tell me in the comments what I should cover next.